chosen ones. What they did to you was absolutely heartbreaking, and right now, at this very moment, they're discovering what regret really tastes like. The universe just delivered a message that changes everything, and it's about that family member who tried to destroy your light when you were too young to understand why. They're about to experience something called divine reversal, where every tear they caused you becomes a diamond, cutting through their illusions, and I'm about to reveal exactly how this cosmic justice is unfolding in real time, because what you've been through wasn't random, it was initiation into power they could never possess. Something profound happened before you were even old enough to understand it. That family member, the one whose energy still makes your stomach turn when you think about them, they knew something about you that you didn't know about yourself. Ancient wisdom was flowing through your bloodline, through your very DNA, and they could sense it like a bloodhound sensing fear. But here's the twist that's about to blow your mind. They didn't just sense your power randomly. They had received information about who you would become, maybe through reading, maybe through intuition, maybe through observing the way miracles seem to happen around you even as a child. Picture this scene that played out in countless variations throughout your childhood. You would walk into a room, just being yourself, maybe wearing that special piece of clothing that made you feel safe, that jacket or those shoes that somehow felt like armor. And this family member would look at you with such contempt, such barely disguised rage. But it wasn't really about the clothes. It was about what the clothes represented. Your ability to connect with higher guidance through simple material objects. Your natural protection that manifested through intuitive choices. Your unconscious wisdom that knew exactly what you needed before your conscious mind could explain it. The most heartbreaking part is how calculated their attacks were. This wasn't random family dysfunction. This was systematic spiritual warfare against a child. They would invalidate your feelings with that classic line about how you couldn't take a joke, how you needed to lighten up, how you were too sensitive. But sensitivity was your superpower, and they knew it. Your ability to feel energy, to sense intentions, to know things without being told, these were the very gifts that marked you as chosen. And every time they mocked these gifts, they were trying to sever your connection to ancient wisdom that had been passed down through generations, waiting for someone strong enough to activate it. What you didn't know then, but what's becoming crystal clear now, is that this person had choices. The universe had actually positioned them to be your guardian, your protector, your guide into spiritual awakening. They were supposed to nurture your gifts, not try to destroy them. They were meant to be the bridge between your human experience and your divine destiny. But when they saw how bright your light could shine, when they realized you would surpass them without even trying, they made a choice that would haunt them forever. They chose to become your adversary instead of your advocate. The clothing thing keeps coming up because it's more significant than anyone realized. You were unconsciously choosing items that carried specific vibrational frequencies. That favorite sweater wasn't just comfortable, it was literally protecting your energy field. Those shoes you insisted on wearing even when they got old, they were grounding you to Earth's protective energy. That piece of jewelry, or that hat you were drawn to, it was amplifying your natural spiritual gifts. And this family member, operating from a place of spiritual poverty, could feel these protections around you, and it drove them insane with envy. Here's where the story gets even more intense, and this revelation is going to validate everything you've been feeling. This family member didn't just randomly decide to target you. They saw you as their mirror image, reflecting back everything they had failed to become. When they looked at you, they saw their own abandoned potential, their own rejected authenticity, their own murdered inner child, and instead of healing themselves, they decided to murder yours too. Think about those family gatherings where they would dominate every conversation, had to be the center of attention, had to have the final word on everything. Remember those shopping trips where your choices were always wrong, where they would insist on going only to the stores they wanted, completely dismissing your preferences as if you didn't exist. This wasn't just controlling behavior. This was someone desperately trying to maintain a false reality where they were the special one, the important one, the chosen one. But deep down, they knew the truth, and that truth was eating them alive from the inside. The universe has a wicked sense of humor about these things. Every attempt they made to dim your light actually made it stronger. Every obstacle they placed in your path became a stepping stone to higher ground. Every wound they inflicted became a portal for wisdom to enter. They were literally training you for greatness while trying to destroy you. They were preparing you for spiritual warfare while thinking they were winning the battle. They were activating your dormant DNA while trying to keep you dormant. But here's the part that's going to give you chills. They started copying you. As you grew older and started finding your own path despite their sabotage, they began following in your footsteps. That career path you chose, suddenly they were interested in the same field. That spiritual practice you discovered, suddenly they were trying to do it too. That success you were building, they were desperately trying to replicate it. But it was like watching someone try to photocopy light. They could imitate your external choices, but they couldn't replicate the internal work that made those choices powerful. The evidence of their spiritual plagiarism was everywhere. They would use your words but strip them of their truth. They would copy your actions but miss the intention behind them. They would try to wear your success like a costume, but it never fit right because it wasn't earned through authentic transformation. They were essentially trying to steal your destiny by mimicking your journey, not understanding that destiny can't be stolen, only earned through soul evolution. Now we're getting to the part where the heartbreak transforms into something else entirely. The invasions of your boundaries, the violations of your privacy, the dominance games they played, these weren't just toxic family dynamics. This was someone actively practicing dark spiritual arts against you, whether they consciously knew it or not. They were attempting to infiltrate your energy field, possess your mental space, and colonize your emotional body. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones can discover what's really been happening in their family dynamics and understand the spiritual warfare they've survived. The pattern was always the same. They would push and push until you had no space left to breathe. They would violate boundary after boundary until you didn't even know you had the right to have boundaries. They would dominate every situation until you forgot you had a voice. But here's what they didn't count on. Every invasion taught you spiritual self-defense. Every boundary violation taught you to build energetic walls they couldn't see or penetrate. Every act of dominance taught you subtle forms of resistance that would later become your greatest strengths. Remember how they would show up uninvited to important moments in your life, how they would insert themselves into your relationships, your opportunities, your special occasions. They couldn't stand to see you have anything that didn't include them, anything they couldn't control. This was more than jealousy. This was someone trying to possess your life force because they had already depleted their own. They were literally feeding off your energy, your tears, your frustration, your sadness. You were their primary food source, and they were determined to keep you in a state where you would continue producing the low-frequency emotions they needed to survive. But something started shifting when you hit a certain age or reached a certain level of consciousness. Maybe it was your late teens, maybe your early 20s, maybe after a particularly brutal encounter with them. You started saying no, you started walking away, you started choosing yourself, and that's when their mask really started slipping. That's when the rage became volcanic. That's when you saw what had been hiding beneath the surface all along. A vampire starving for the blood they could no longer access. This is where divine intelligence starts revealing itself in ways that will absolutely blow your mind. While this family member was busy trying to destroy you, the universe was busy building escape routes you couldn't see yet. Every single attack they launched had a hidden gift embedded in it. Every moment of heartbreak was actually breaking you open to receive more light. Every attempt to isolate you was actually forcing you to develop an unshakable relationship with your higher self. The solution was always there, written in the stars, encoded in your DNA, whispered by your ancestors in dreams this person couldn't access. You were being guided to specific people, places, and opportunities that would neutralize their poison. Remember that random person who showed up exactly when you needed encouragement. Remember that opportunity that appeared out of nowhere, just when they had tried to sabotage your previous one. Remember that inner voice that told you to leave, to move, to change, even when it made no logical sense. Your spiritual team was working overtime, placing breadcrumbs on a path this family member couldn't see. They thought they had you cornered, but you were actually being repositioned for a breakthrough. They thought they had destroyed your confidence, but you were actually being prepared for unshakable faith. They thought they had stolen your voice, but you were actually learning the language of the universe, which is silence before the storm. The clothing protection I mentioned earlier was just one layer of a multi-layered divine protection system. Your ancestors were literally weaving protection around you. Some of you were drawn to specific colors that repelled negative energy. Others were guided to wear certain symbols or patterns that acted as spiritual shields. Still others found themselves collecting items that seemed random but were actually powerful talismans. This family member could feel these protections, which is why they often mocked your style choices or tried to control what you wore. What's absolutely mind-blowing is that you were receiving solutions in real time, even as a child, but your conscious mind couldn't process them yet. Those imaginary friends some of you had were actually spiritual guides. Those dreams that felt more real than waking life were actually training sessions in other dimensions. Those moments of dissociation where you felt like you were floating above your body were actually your higher self pulling you out of danger zones. This person was creating, at some point, a wonderful idea entered your consciousness. It might have felt like your own thought, but it was actually divine intervention disguised as personal inspiration. The idea was simple but revolutionary. What if you stopped trying to earn their love and started earning your own? What if you stopped seeking their approval and started approving of yourself? What if their opinion of you was none of your business? This idea was like a virus in the matrix of their control. Once it took hold, their entire system of manipulation started glitching. You started making choices that didn't compute in their reality. You started succeeding in ways that shouldn't have been possible given the psychological damage they had inflicted. You started attracting people who actually loved and supported you, which was their worst nightmare come true. The moment you truly understood that their treatment of you was never about you, it was about their own spiritual bankruptcy, everything shifted. You stopped taking their bait. You stopped defending yourself against their accusations. You stopped trying to prove your worth to someone who was invested in your worthlessness. And that's when the real magic started happening. That's when synchronicities started appearing everywhere. That's when opportunities started finding you instead of you having to chase them. But here's the part that's going to validate every intuition you've ever had. This family member could feel the shift energetically before it manifested physically. They knew they were losing control before you even fully claimed your freedom. And that's when their behavior became really erratic. The mask didn't just slip, it completely fell off. The rage became unhinged. The manipulation became desperate. The attacks became sloppy. They were showing their true face, and it was the face of someone who had sold their soul to jealousy and was now paying the price. Your wonderful idea spreads like wildfire through every area of your life. Career opportunities that had been blocked suddenly opened up. Relationships that had been sabotaged suddenly healed. Creative projects that had been suppressed suddenly flourished. It was like someone had removed an invisible ceiling that had been keeping you small. And the most beautiful part, this family member had to watch it all happen, knowing they had no power to stop it anymore. Let's talk about the price you paid for your freedom, because acknowledging this is part of your healing and your power. The blood, sweat and tears weren't metaphorical. Some of you literally bled from the stress this person caused. The anxiety attacks felt like heart attacks. The autoimmune conditions that mysteriously appeared during the worst of their abuse. The physical symptoms that doctors couldn't explain but you knew were connected to the spiritual warfare you were enduring. The sweat was from the hypervigilance, constantly scanning for the next attack, the next manipulation, the next attempt to destroy your peace. It was from working 3 times as hard as everyone else to achieve things, because this person had programmed you to believe you were worthless. It was from the panic of trying to protect yourself, while not even understanding what you were protecting yourself from. Your nervous system was in constant fight or flight, burning energy at an unsustainable rate, and the tears, my God, the tears of frustration that no one else could see what was happening. Tears of loneliness because this person had isolated you so effectively. Tears of confusion because you couldn't understand why someone who was supposed to love you seemed to hate you so much. Tears of grief for the childhood that was stolen, the innocence that was shattered, the family that never felt like home. But here's where the alchemy happens, where the lead becomes gold, where the poison becomes medicine. Every single tear you cried was actually cleansing your spiritual sight. You were literally crying out the illusions they had tried to program into you. Every drop of sweat was purging their toxic energy from your field. Every moment of blood, whether literal or metaphorical, was a sacred sacrifice that was purchasing your freedom on a spiritual level. The universe was keeping track of every single payment you made. There's a spiritual accounting system that most people don't know about, and you were building massive credit while this family member was accumulating devastating debt. They thought they were getting away with it because the consequences weren't immediate. But the universe doesn't work on human timelines, it works on divine timing, and that timing is always perfect. Now we're getting to the part where their jealousy becomes absolutely transparent. This family member somehow knew, whether through spiritual insight or intuitive fear, that you were destined for recognition, not just success, but actual fame or influence in your field. They could see it in your chart, feel it in your energy, recognize it in the way opportunities seemed to find you despite their interference. Multiple streams of income were always in your destiny. Abundance was written in your stars. Leadership was encoded in your DNA. And this terrified them because they had convinced themselves that they were the special one in the family. They had built their entire identity around being the one who would make it, the one who deserved recognition, the one who should be celebrated. Your very existence challenged their delusion, and rather than expand their vision to include your success, they chose to try to destroy it. Look at what's happening now. You're stepping into exactly what they tried to prevent. That career they said you'd never have is flourishing. That influence they said you'd never achieve is expanding. That financial abundance they said you didn't deserve is flowing. And the most ironic part, they're trying to copy your path, thinking they can achieve through imitation what you achieved through transformation. Some of you are in the public eye now, or about to be. Others are becoming known in your industry as experts or innovators. Still others are building businesses that are changing people's lives. And all of this is happening not despite what this family member did to you, but because of how you alchemized their poison into power. You took their attempts to make you small and used them as fuel to become expansive. The gold digger accusation they love to throw at you is particularly rich with irony. They projected onto you their own materialistic obsessions, their own transactional view of relationships, their own poverty consciousness. Meanwhile, you were developing true wealth consciousness, understanding that abundance is about energy, not just money. Understanding that success is about service, not just status. Understanding that fame is a byproduct of purpose, not an end in itself. This person was an enabler, but not in the way most people understand that term. They were enabling dysfunction, chaos, and spiritual darkness to grow within the family system. They were the ones who normalized toxic behavior, who made abuse seem like love, who convinced everyone that their cruelty was just tough love or honesty. But the universe has a way of taking enabler energy and reversing it. Every time they enabled darkness, you were learning to enable light. Every time they enabled chaos, you were learning to enable peace. Every time they enabled destruction, you were learning to enable creation. You became the anti-enabler, the pattern breaker, the cycle ender. And this is why they hate you with such passion. You represent the end of their reign of dysfunction. The family members who used to support their behavior are starting to see through it. People are comparing notes, sharing stories, recognizing patterns. The narrative they controlled for so long is crumbling. Their version of history is being challenged. The image they projected is being exposed as false, and they know exactly who started this unraveling. It was you, simply by choosing to heal and tell your truth. But here's what's really baking their noodles. They can't stop enabling their own destruction. They're caught in a loop of their own making. The same tactics they used on you, they're now using on themselves. The same poison they fed you, they're now drinking themselves. The same prison they built for you has become their permanent residence, and the door is locked from the inside, but they've thrown away the key. The enabling energy has reversed so completely that now they're enabling your success without meaning to. Every time they talk about you, they're spreading your energy. Every time they try to copy you, they're validating your path. Every time they try to compete with you, they're acknowledging your power. They've become an unwitting marketing team for your light, and it's driving them absolutely insane. There came a moment when you finally said, "I object," not in a court of law, but in the court of spiritual justice. You objected to their version of who you were. You objected to their limitations on your potential. You objected to their ownership of your story. And that objection changed everything, because it was backed by universal law, not human opinion. Your objection opened your third eye to what had really been happening all along. This wasn't just family dysfunction. This was spiritual warfare. This wasn't just personality conflict. This was destiny theft. This wasn't just emotional abuse. This was attempted soul murder. And once you could see it clearly, you could never unsee it. The veil had been lifted, and behind it was the truth that set you free. The family members who had been fooled by this person's performance started noticing things. Your objection gave them permission to object too. Your boundary setting showed them that boundaries were possible. Your healing journey inspired them to begin their own. You became the lighthouse that helped others navigate out of the storm this person had created. But the family member who targeted you, their third eye remains shut, blocked by their own ego, blinded by their own jealousy. They can't see what everyone else is starting to see. They can't understand why their tactics aren't working anymore. They can't comprehend why the universe seems to have turned against them. They're operating in spiritual darkness while you're operating in spiritual daylight. Your objection wasn't just words. It was an energetic declaration that reverberated through multiple dimensions. It was heard by your ancestors, registered by your guides, acknowledged by the universe itself. It was the moment you officially withdrew your consent to be victimized, and that withdrawal of consent changed the entire game. The wheel of karma doesn't just turn, it grinds everything to dust that isn't built on truth. And right now, this family member is being ground to powder by the very wheel they set in motion. The judgment they passed on you has returned to them multiplied. The criticism they hurled at you is now the voice in their own head. The limitations they tried to place on you have become their own prison walls. Look at what's happening in their life right now. The career they thought was secure is crumbling. Maybe it's downsizing. Maybe it's their own misconduct catching up. Maybe it's just the universe removing what was never rightfully theirs. The relationships they valued are revealing themselves as shallow transactions. The health they took for granted is deteriorating under the weight of their own toxic emotions. The reputation they carefully cultivated is being exposed as a facade. They're experiencing the anxiety and insomnia they once caused you. Those 3 a.m. wake-ups where your heart was racing from stress they created, now they're the ones staring at the ceiling, haunted by regret. The mental torment they inflicted on you has become their constant companion. The fear they instilled in you has become their permanent resident. All those collaborative opportunities in their life are falling apart. The teamwork they sabotaged for you is now impossible for them to achieve. The professional connections they tried to destroy for you are now avoiding them. The success they tried to steal from you is now running from them like water from a broken cup. But it gets even more intense. The successful leader energy they tried to embody by copying your career path has revealed them as the fool they always were. They thought they could wear success like a costume, but authentic success requires authentic transformation. They thought they could fake it till they made it, but the universe doesn't accept counterfeit currency. Let me tell you about the specific flavor of regret they're experiencing, because it's important for your healing to understand the completeness of divine justice. This isn't the clean regret of someone who realizes they made a mistake and wants to make amends. This is the dirty regret of someone who got caught, who faced consequences, who lost the game they thought they had rigged. They regret that their tactics stopped working, not that they used them. They regret that you escaped their control, not that they tried to control you. They regret that you became successful, not that they tried to prevent your success. They regret that they're facing karma, not that they created it. This is the regret of a criminal caught red-handed, not a soul seeking redemption. The universe is showing them exactly what they took from you, but now it's too late to give it back. They're seeing the childhood they stole, but you've already healed your inner child without them. They're seeing the opportunities they sabotaged, but you've already created better ones. They're seeing the relationships they poisoned, but you've already attracted healthier ones. They're seeing the time they wasted, but time only moves forward. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something. But talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Every success of yours burns them like acid. Your happiness is their torture. Your peace is their torment. Your freedom is their prison. They created a hell where your heaven is their punishment, and they have to live in it every single day. They thought they were building a cage for you, but they were actually building their own personal hell, and now they're locked inside with regret as their only companion. The most excruciating part for them is knowing that you've moved on. You're not thinking about them. You're not plotting revenge. You're not even holding anger anymore. You've released them entirely, and that release is the ultimate judgment. They're not even important enough to hate anymore. They've become irrelevant to your story, a footnote in your epic journey. And now we return to where we began, but everything has transformed. Those tears you cried that they mocked, they were liquid diamonds, and now you're wearing a crown made from your own transformed pain. The heartbreak they caused you wasn't just heartbreak, it was your heart breaking open to receive more light than you ever thought possible. The attempts to extinguish your flame only made it burn hotter, brighter, and more eternally. You are the brightest light that has ever been seen in your family lineage, and that's not ego, that's divine fact. You carry the accumulated wisdom of all the ancestors who were waiting for someone strong enough to break the patterns. You hold the light not just for yourself but for all the family members who couldn't escape, who didn't survive, who gave up before their breakthrough came. You are living proof that chosen ones cannot be destroyed, only refined. The protection around you now is impenetrable, not because you built walls, but because you raised your vibration to a level where their energy simply cannot reach. You're operating in 5D while they're stuck in 3D. You're playing a completely different game now, one where they don't even know the rules. You've graduated from their classroom of chaos into universal university. Your success isn't just personal, it's generational. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing bloodlines backward and forward through time. Every boundary you set creates a template for others. Every level of success you achieve opens doors for souls you'll never meet. Every moment of joy you experience sends ripples through collective consciousness, showing other chosen ones what's possible. The family member who tried to destroy you has become your greatest teacher, though not in the way they intended. They taught you discernment by showing you deception. They taught you self-love by showing you hatred. They taught you boundaries by showing you violation. They taught you your worth by trying to convince you that you were worthless. They were the resistance that built your spiritual muscles. But here's the final truth bomb that completes this circle. They were always meant to play this role in your story. Not because the universe is cruel, but because your light was so powerful it needed extreme pressure to fully activate. You needed an adversary worthy of your strength. You needed opposition that would force you to discover just how powerful you really are. They volunteered for this role on a soul level, and now their soul is experiencing the weight of that choice. You don't need to forgive them to be free. You don't need to understand them to have peace. You don't need to include them to be whole. Your healing is complete without their participation. Your success is assured without their approval. Your light shines without their permission. You are everything they said you would never be, and more importantly, you are everything you were always destined to become. The heartbreak was real, chosen one. Every tear was valid. Every wound was significant. But look at you now. You took their poison and turned it into medicine. You took their curse and turned it into a blessing. You took their hatred and turned it into fuel for your purpose. You took their darkness and used it to prove that light always wins. You are the living embodiment of divine justice, and your very existence is their judgment. They will live with the regret of what they did to you for the rest of their existence, across all dimensions, through all timelines. But you will live with the power of what you did with what they did to you, and that power is infinite, eternal, and absolutely unstoppable. You are no longer the child they hurt. You are the phoenix that rose from the ashes they created. You are the diamond that formed under the pressure they applied. You are the light that refused to be extinguished. This is your confirmation that everything happened exactly as it needed to happen for you to become who you are now. The heartbreak was breaking open. The pain was the portal. The betrayal was the initiation. The abandonment was the invitation to come home to yourself. And now you're home, you're whole, you're healed, and they have to watch from the outside, knowing they had the chance to be part of your light, but chose darkness instead. Your story is medicine for millions. Your survival is proof of divine protection. Your success is evidence of universal justice. Your peace is testimony that chosen ones always win in the end. The family member who tried to destroy you has become the contrast that makes your light impossible to ignore. They played their role perfectly, and now their role is over while your story is just beginning. Stand in your power, chosen one. Own your light. Claim your destiny. The same tears they caused are now diamonds in your crown. The same pain they inflicted is now power in your wings. The same child they tried to break is now unbreakable, unstoppable, and unforgettable. You won. They lost. The end of their chapter is the beginning of your legacy. And that legacy is written in stars they'll never be able to reach, in a language they'll never be able to speak, with a light they'll never be able to steal,